Welcome to the Pitch of Discontent. Owen back again for another guest episode. This episode has been many years in the making. Very excited to have the two guests that I have on the show for this one. We're talking to Justine and Sammy from Employed to Serve and Church Road Records and so many other things that we will get into. But hello, how are you guys doing?
Hello.
You're not just an email address.
I know.
Yeah, for everyone.
You're a real person.
We blow up his inbox like daily.
Yeah, I'm not just a MailChimp like contact or whatever it is you're using for mailers. Yeah, we were kind of chopping it up a little bit before I hit record here, but I have been following you guys for so long on all of your different endeavors. You're a huge kind of fixture in the UK underground scene, a power couple, I would dare to say, with fingers in many pies. But for those who aren't familiar with what you guys do, can we do some brief introductions, let people know kind of what you're about and what you guys do? Justine, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I am Justine. I am the vocalist and Employed to Serve, and I also co-own Church Road Records with Sammy.
That's me.
And as of January this year, I've started doing press under the name Since Always Press, because apparently I need 3 jobs.
Yep.
Not enough.
Not enough.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I'm Sammy. Similar to Justine, I'm also in the band Employed to Serve. I play guitar and ever increasingly doing more vocals and slowly but surely trying to push Justine out the door. So I can, also co-own Church Road Records, wear many hats there. We both sort of do press duties, mail order, band management, and whatever else we can get our hands on. And I've started doing more press outside of that. So yeah, basically just a bunch of music nerds who like to keep very busy.
Yeah. I'd love to have an alternate universe where one of our endeavours pays well enough to not have to do the others, and if we'd still do all of the others because we can't help haven't quite worked it out.
We'd have to find something to fill the time with,
yeah,
regardless.
We would.
So
I don't know, maybe I'd buy it. Who knows?
What is the value of empty emotions? As fast as I can. The sun is falling and I'm paperwork from fall. Run too fast to lust to see a wolf was long since gone. We just saw you from afar.
You're speaking my language here because I'm definitely not as prolific as both of you, but I've worked various jobs in the music industry to try and like pay the bills and kind of keep things running, and been doing this show for a little over 2.5 years, maybe 3 years now. And you know, if someone would pay me to do this, that would be sick because I throw so much time and effort into it. But yeah, I understand the grind, and I guess that leads to my first question. Like, why do you guys do this to yourselves? It must be so much work. Like, why do you... It's masochistic, it is. But I guess like but you are doing a lot, and I think, you know, a lot of it kind of feeds in to one another in a way, right? Like doing the label, then being able to do press and to help out bands that you resonate with and that you want to help get a kind of push, but then that also gives you an inside kind of lens into industry shenanigans and how PR and publicity works, which you can then kind of use to figure out different things for Employed to Serve and the main project. So I guess like for you guys, how do you juggle all of these different hats? How do you kind of keep all the plates spinning at once?
So I tell you what, it's actually easier doing it this way than what we used to have to do, where I used to work in retail and then just do the band. And that jumping between those two is far more jarring than jumping between 3 things I have going on at the moment, because at least it's in the same realm. At least I haven't got disgruntled customers. I find it less jarring doing it this way because it, like you said, it's all linked and it's kind of very much like interspersed with each other. So
well, we manage our own time as well, like because that definitely resonated with me from when I had a job outside of the music industry. Because like when you're there, your time's totally dictated by your employer, and you can't, you know, sort of multitask. If you have a spare 10 minutes, you can't quickly just like go and upload, something to socials. Whereas our day to
record
day,
a podcast, for example, you can't just duck out the back.
exactly that. Whereas since we're able to control our time and obviously get our priorities right, be like, well, this needs immediate attention, but we can sort of chop our day up with different things.
Well, that's it. And like music's very project based, right? Like it's not like with customer sales where you're just sort of like, there's a constant stream of people coming in and that's your job. Like you can like quite easily, I mean, my calendar looks horrific, but like I can, block time out for each thing and it's like not so bad. But I mean, yeah, like it's a lot, I'm not gonna lie. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't have it any other way because I've worked at a call center, I've worked in retail, I've done all of like those kind of jobs to sort of make other music things work, and this is by far my favorite way of doing it. So if I'm a bit tired or I finish at 9 p.m. and I started at 7, so be it,
You take the rough
7, not 7 p.m. I don't work for 2 hours. Just
I think that's the kind of grind that it takes, and like I think it's hard to, at least for me anyway, is like it's hard to have an off switch. You kind of have this feeling that you're always on. And I think it's quite pernicious now with, like smartphones and stuff. Like you're probably always getting emails. You're always getting people sliding into the DMs being like, hey, can you help out with this real quick? And, you guys are talking to artists kind of all over the place on tours and whatever else. So, I mean, like, there would be a lot of like always on. How do you make time to switch off? How do you guys kind of decompress?
Oh, my phone's like always on do not disturb. Like for real. I'm actually pretty good with my boundaries. Like with my bands, I'm like, unless it's something really urgent, I'm always like, please email me, because I'll probably not get back to my WhatsApp messages. And like it's just not good for work because you can't go through like find the thread and stuff like that. So like I try and like separate my personal and work life as much as possible. And like I schedule in like no phone time. Like I try and walk, see the ducks in the park around the corner of where we live.
Ducks.
Big fan, yeah. Tony Soprano level of fandom for ducks.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yes, love that. No, I'm exactly the same. Like we got a little dog last year, and that was actually like the biggest boon to my mental health, because it was like, okay, I have to go for a walk with him every day and I have to take him out. So that's like an hour of decompression time to like go touch grass, go take him for a walk, and just like be away from bad screen for like an hour and just kind of like have that kind of like sanity check, which I think was like really important. And I've come to really kind of cherish that time. So I appreciate setting boundaries. I think that's really crucial.
Yeah, that's it. I was terrible at it as well. Sorry, I just totally talked over you and I'm still doing it.
Please.
I found the pandemic really good for that, because that's all I could do was go for walks. And like as soon as like lockdown ended, like, well, I'm keeping my walks. Like
yeah, I think it was a reality check for a lot of people as well, the pandemic. It kind of put in perspective what's really important. And yeah, mental well-being and, like you say, having time to touch grass, became very apparent during the lockdown that like you need to make time for that, because we were sort of as driven as we are now, but back then, but almost to a point where it was like, at what cost though? You know what I mean? Are we enjoying any of this? We're like but myself probably more so than Justine. I was a bit of a music magpie for collecting music like projects. I'd have like 5 or 6 bands on the go, whereas now I'm kind of more focused on just doing ETS.
Yeah,
maybe a little something here and there, but like any social interaction I was doing was like a band practice. And I think for me, that got to the point where it was like, I need to learn how to hang out without having an instrument in my hand.
It's almost like an emotional guitar, like a safety guitar that you have to carry around to social situations. It's just like, be in a band with me so we can hang out.
Well, it's that kind of like it's a hard balancing act, isn't it? Because you want to remain driven and do all these things with your life, whatever your aspirations might be, but then not doing it to the point where it's just like absolute burnout. Because I was juggling too much at that point. I was trying, and therefore all the things were kind of suffering because I was trying to do it all. Whereas now, even though we're still super busy with work and stuff, I feel like both of us, but definitely more so me, I'm better at kind of putting it all in blocks and being like, what's important, how do we focus on this, and then like, you know, you guys are saying, making sure there's time for me to chill out. And...
I'm so good at chilling out. It's what I excel at. Like, I bought myself a Kindle just over a year ago now. I'm obsessed with it. That's all. Like I literally carve out cozy Kindle time.
I lost Justine for most of, was it last year or was it the year? No, can't remember now. It was either 2023 or 2024. Like any spare second Justine had, like it literally could be like she had 2 minutes while something was in the microwave. It was being spent reading the Kindle. Like,
yeah, I bet it's schooling though.
It is.
The social media is doing my head in.
Yeah, I'm actually envious. Like I used to be a really big reader, and I think I still am, but I find myself doing too much bullshit on the phone, and like not even like consciously, like subconsciously, I'll just like have it and I'll be like scrolling and I'm like, why the fuck am I looking at this? Like I don't care. And like,
and then you get annoyed, right? As well.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah.
I usually have 2 books on the go at once, and like I would normally just like juggle between them, finish one, move on to the next, and like constantly kind of cycle. And I've been a bit slack with that. And I looked at my like my anal retentive like Excel spreadsheet of books that I've read and like ones that I like, and I was like, oh, I'm reading way less than last year. What the fuck's going on? Like I got to get my numbers up. What's going on?
Get your book count up.
Yeah,
get your killing stuff.
Yeah,
exactly.
I go through. Well, like sometimes I'll have a book heavy year, and other times I have. Sometimes if I've got quite a busy mind, I still need to find something that's not the phone to keep me busy. But sometimes my mind's a little bit too busy for a book, so going for a walk and listening to music, I always find quite good.
I mean, that's the ultimate, isn't it? I've started getting into chess.com app as well. I'm terrible at chess.
Me too. I'm real bad,
really,
but
it's really good for like 3 minutes. You can do one of those little puzzles, and it's like an active. It's kind of good for you because it's like kind of like scrolling, but at least it's sort of good for your brain because it's like logical thinking.
I'm going to email you after this, Justine. I'm going to get your handle and we can play chess.
Yeah,
and we can both be terrible together.
I lost to the Dodo simulator yesterday, so I think I could be losing to you.
Incredible. On this talk of like being so busy, let's pivot now to talk about the album because you guys are ramping up to an album cycle. And that's obviously going to be a busy period getting Employed to Serve back out on the road. I guess I want to start with the gap between Conquering in 2021 and the new record Fallen Star, which comes out on April 25th through Spinefarm. I've heard the record. It's fantastic. Talk to me about the gap between them. Where were you guys kind of after Conquering, and when did you kind of feel like things were pulling or coalescing together for a new record?
Yeah, so I guess so this is like the longest break we've had between albums, and I guess COVID was the main reason for that because obviously we had a lot of touring that was pushed back. We had those like 2-month-long tours with Gojira, which I think the first one was supposed to be early doors 2022, and then it ended up getting pushed back to we finished touring with them in, I think it was like March 2023, and then we didn't get we weren't able to do any headline tours in that time because we were doing the same markets as Gojira, so we didn't actually headline our own tour until late 2023. So this is the second record for us that's been affected by COVID somehow, or at least the touring plans have. So, and then I guess there was a bit as well. We've been, I don't know if you've noticed, but we've been like clockwork up until this record. It's been every 2 years. And I think as we're starting to creep up,
same month as well, like May.
Yeah,
every 2 years. Set your clock by it,
And I think we kind of felt like, well, we've been affected by COVID here, and this is going to be like our 5th LP. We don't have to like rush into getting it out like on the dot, 2 years in. But with all of the records, we start pretty early on. I mean, when Conquering was recorded, probably even pre it being out, I think there was a couple of songs that were on Fallen Star that were already starting to come together, which is the case now as well.
Fallen we've got like 7 or so demos already written. So, yeah.
I mean, more so with this one because we finished recording Fallen Star in January of last year. So this is the longest we've been sat on a record as well.
Yeah, wow.
So we've just been cooking up some more ideas already. But yeah, that's kind of the reasoning for why it took so long. getting over the fallout of COVID.
Yeah, I mean, it was just annoying, to be blunt. Like, 'cause
Yeah.
it was just sort of like, we had 2 records that we spent like loads of time on, and then we really struggled to promote those records and tour them, and and we were just sort of like, not quite jaded, because that's quite a strong term, but it was just sort of like, okay, let's like sit on this a little bit and try and get its mileage,
Yeah.
because like I feel like music industry has like a real like kind of thing for like, oh, it's been 2 years, it's old now. And I hate that, because it's just sort of like, oh, but we still spent ages on it. And we still really like it.
I think the music industry
6
sometimes
months, yeah.
6 months. That's
so yeah, we just really wanted those songs to like just percolate, I guess, like you would a coffee, just like, yeah.
We're quite, we've changed as the band as well, which I'm sure like people have heard through the music. And one of the things I keep going back to is like, we still sound like ETS. We still kind of have that, I don't know, certain whatever that I think has been in our music throughout all of the records. But from Eternal Forward Motion to Conquering, there was the biggest musical shift we've had as a band. And I guess we wanted to sit with that for a little bit as well. You know what I mean? It's like, we're Fallen Star, there's stuff on that's different from Conquering as well. But I feel like it's kind of, the two sit together quite neatly. And I think it was nice to sit with Conquering for a while for people to maybe acclimatise to the band that we've been evolving into, rather than rushing into like, here's the next thing. It's like, have a moment to kind of, absorb, because there's so many records coming out all the time. There was probably some people who didn't even hear Conquering until it had been out for a year. I know I'm guilty of that sometimes. There'll be bands I like and you forget they put a new record out, and we didn't want to get like too ahead of people and then be like, what the fuck's going on here? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's the story of my life, Sammy. Story of my life.
I think it naturally happens as well, as like a band sort of gets deeper into their career. Like, we don't have to prove anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're just sort of like, we've been around a bit. We've got more than enough material for a set list at this point. We kind of just wanted to like take our time.
Yeah.
That sense of confidence and self-assuredness comes across on the record. And there was something that I was thinking about while I was listening to it earlier today. I had Spencer from Under Oath on the show a couple of weeks ago, and we had a really kind of cool conversation about their new record, which dropped like last week or the week before. And he was kind of saying, like, he was pretty candid. He was like, like, Under Oath doesn't need to do new music. He's like, we could just tour off, They're Only Chasing Safety and Define the Great Line for forever. Like, we don't need
Bob from it too. Like,
yeah, and he was just like honest. He was just like, like, we could tour those records and people would be stoked. It's fine. He's like, so with the new music, he's like, we only wanted to do it when we had something to say. He's like, and when that sense of purpose came about, he's like, then the music kind of naturally kind of formed around it. So on that note, I guess, like, what are you trying to say with Fallen Star, and how does that fit into your sense of purpose, like individually, collectively? How does that all kind of gel together?
It's a good question, really. Like, I feel like
we just wanted to make riffs go big.
Riffs go big.
Riffs go big. Riffs go big.
Drums go flash, riffs go.
We just wanted to write a positive record for a negative time. I feel like it's sort of like, it's very, despite, the imagery, which is all skulls and dark covers.
The sun's
and stuff
back. We love the sun.
The sun is
sun's
back.
Well, that all kind of turned into like wanting to. For me, it kind of feels like it's expanding upon the positiveness of Conquering, whilst also maybe shining more of a light on the day-to-day bullshit and stuff we go through. Because, like Justine says, like, it's a positive record, but we in no way want to be doing the like non-stop PMA. Well, obviously no shade to anyone who goes that kind of thing, but I kind of feel like the being like, let's all have a great time all the time, never feel sad, is obviously an unreasonable and unrealistic expectation. You know, sometimes you are going to get down, sometimes you are going to get angry, but I think for us the music is all about channeling those emotions into pushing it forwards, you know, because like the first two albums are like super like negative records, aren't they? Just through and through.
Yeah, proper teenage angsty. But
Yeah.
Well, you know, I guess it's like looking at it in hindsight, it's, you know, we're early 20s, and it was that kind of uncertainty of, you know, like, you know, being a, I'm sure this will resonate with many people, it's like being a band rat and kind of all your kind of enjoyment coming from doing music and creating art of any kind of sort,
and just not being able to make an income from it, so constantly like having to jump from job to job because, you know, shock horror, you've only got 2 weeks a year holiday and you use that up in like half a tour. So,
and if you're in a band, well, it's perfectly reasonable that other people might get to a point in their life where they want to go other ways and do other things, and then where does that leave you and stuff like that. And
I wonder what those other things are.
Hey,
what do people do?
Go work retail, go for walks. I don't know.
It's like like last year when we had a quiet year for touring, I was like, what do I do? Just go to brunch? Like all I sort of did with my weekends, I was like, I don't know. No, like, yeah, I love brunch, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, don't you be throwing any shade at brunch.
But I'm like, awesome. I like brunch with purpose. I like brunch before a show.
Yeah. But like, I think, yeah, I don't know, for me, it's like when, you know, I look at the music and stuff, it's kind of us, you know, growing up, we're, you know, obviously we started the band, like when we just, well, I think we were like 19 or something. We're now in our early 30s. It's kind of like we still have a lot of, you know, shit that pisses us off, particularly over the last couple of years. We've had our fair share of stuff chucked at us as a band and as individuals, but it's kind of dealing with it in, I don't know, it's like using that to our advantage, just kind of further proving to us it's like, fuck you, we want to do this, we're sticking around, we're not going anywhere, and kind of carrying on. It's like, whereas the early ETS stuff is kind of bleak, slightly, like you said, what did you say, kind of like early kind of young adult kind
teenage
of
angst.
Yeah, exactly.
We're stage elder emos now.
Don't start. Oh my god. No, I completely agree. And I was saying to you guys before we hit record, I was listening to the Kerrang Conversation podcast that you guys did. And there's a part in there, Justine, where you talk about really kind of enjoying Jamie Jaster in his role with Hatebreed and being just like this constant like hype man of like positivity and just like harnessing your inner strength and that kind of like motivational music within heavy music. And I definitely resonate with that because I've always thought of him as like the Tony Robbins of like hardcore or whatever. But
being
I feel
instructor.
Yeah, definitely. I saw them here for Knotfest, and then I went and saw a headline sideshow that they did as well. So I got to see them twice in 1 week, and I was like, it's not enough Hatebreed. It's good Hatebreed, but I need more Hatebreed. Yeah. But I guess like with this kind of shift in the band, you know, I really see it in like Eternal Forward Motion and then like Conquering and Fallen Star. There is this sense of like empowerment and like kind of like asserting yourself into the world for the things that you stand for and the things that you want. And one of the things that comes up in the press material for the record is the slogan, heavy metal unity. And I wanted to kind of interrogate that with you a little bit. So like, what does the slogan represent for you guys and the band, and where did it come from, and why is it something that you want to push out into the world?
Well, it kind of represents like two things primarily. Like, it's quite interesting for us as individuals how we all have our common bonds when it comes to musical inspiration, but however we are all quite, you know, different in what we like. You know, you've got Justine, who likes, I don't know, anything from Hatebreed all the way up to just like listening to Beyonce on a regular basis, and
all empowering vocalists though. We've got a common denominator flowing through my music.
Nice.
You know, and then you've got Casey, our drummer, and Nathan, our bass player, who kind of, I mean, they're both quite different in like their music taste, but they definitely enjoy like I don't know, some more of the sort of like stuff like Terror and
Kublai
Khan, and but also like the more melodic metalcore and stuff like that.
And Casey likes Dream Theater.
He does, but
There's always one.
He probably won't listen to it. I'll throw him under the bus, but he likes Dream Theater. Like, that's like the only prog thing he likes. And I've shown him something else to be like, you like Dream Theater? You'll probably like this, and it's like, nah.
You're too intense with it though. You probably scare him.
I try and anyway, I digress. And then me and David are quite akin in our like love for death metal and black metal, the more extreme stuff. But then he's got his he's really into like ambient music. I love like prog and jazz fusion. So we're all like a bunch of weird misfits. But our love for like a certain type of bands and like the music that we make as a collective binds us together, and we just kind of, and that was something that kind of really stood out as something quite special, particularly when the guys joined in the early days of COVID, was the fact that we're all quite different. All of our previous bands are quite different, but we gelled so well together and became really like
forced friends.
Well, yeah, it was really like that.
Kidding, no. Like, I did it out of my own free will.
Since we had like a complete overhaul of members, because they got to crossroads in their life and they wanted to go the route of
they grew up
down, and we're still out here.
we're still in our arrested development.
Too young to have kids, man. You're 32. Chill out.
I'm just a kid.
But and at that point, I must admit, for me, it was a little bit what it's like. Oh shit, is ETS forever going to be me and Justine in a revolving door of other members? But the world shut down, and we were kind of forced to just. Obviously, we couldn't see each other all the time, but when the lockdowns opened up, we'd meet up and practice and just hang out and just have like the best time. So that's one part of the heavy metal unity, thing for us. It is us as a unit itself, but the kind of wider scope of what we're saying with that is the empowering feeling you get from listening to heavy metal. And I know, like, I always kind of preface this with like, I know it's kind of cheesy, but I don't really care, because it's such like an awesome feeling when you stick on like your favorite record and you're feeling like absolute dog shit, and that it can just like change in an instance for you. So it talks about the empowering feeling you get as an individual, but also how you can go to the other side of the world and you see some guy wearing a t-shirt of a band you like, you've instantly got that connection with that person, and it's just something, particularly in the times we live in now, which is a pretty much a hellscape for many reasons. It's a real positive part of the world and the music world that I think is worth championing. Like the fact that there is this universal language known as heavy metal that brings so many people together and brings people so much power to overcome difficult times. I'm sure we can all attest to that. We've had music help us through some really, really shitty times in our lives, and it's pretty cool. So that's not in a nutshell, because it was quite a long explanation, but that's kind of
a beautiful explanation.
What we're getting at with that slogan. And also it's heavy metal, unity, swords clashing, and just it's metal, isn't it?
Metal, yeah.
It's just metal, isn't it?
Motivated by the fact that I will get living on, moving forward, never back. That's what it takes to keep my life on track. Sometimes it's hard just to breathe, to take another photo.
I think that's perfectly well said. And I have a bit of academic work that I've been working on kind of since COVID and throughout. And I wrote a book chapter for like the Routledge Press. It's coming out, I don't know, sometime this year. Academic publishing takes fucking forever. So like, I don't know. I got an email and they'll be like, it's done. And that's all I know. But I wrote this book chapter on breakdowns, and specifically like the psychology of what happens in your brain when you hear a breakdown. And
not mental breakdowns. Okay,
not a mental breakdown, like good breakdowns, like hate breed breakdowns.
Got you.
The title of the chapter is actually just like like a hate breed, like rip. Instead of like conceived through an act of violence, it's conceived through an act of catharsis. And I was like, there's going to be someone who sees that and they're just kind of like, is that hate breed? I'm like, yes, it is. But I've got some stuff in there about like kind of academic research about why heavy metal and aggressive music is this kind of like locus of communal kind of energy, and why people gravitate towards these subcultural spaces that to the normies look super scary and intimidating and weird and full of misfits, but there's something psychologically going on there that people actually connect with and find common ground and solidarity. And a lot of the research that I looked at was, you know, like the hypothesis was like, if you listen to angry music, does it make you angry? And then most of the research was borne out to say the opposite, which is like, no, listening to aggressive music helps me process my anger, helps chill me out, helps me kind of feel more centered and able to kind of take control of my life. And I think that's like something that I've felt, something that I've seen in other people, and it's something that continues to draw me to, you know, your music, other music, and just heavy music in general. So I think for you guys, it's incredibly important to champion that and to really kind of make that the front-facing kind of slogan of the band, because it is an important thing. Capitalism is eroding all of our communal spaces, and people have nowhere to go and nowhere to hang out, and everything costs money. So like, if you're gonna pay money, at least go to a show and like meet people and mosh and have a good time.
Social network.
I think like listening to angry music or emotive music makes you more of a trustworthy person and a bit more I feel like in tune with your emotions. Like I feel like when I was a teenager as well, like reading books, obviously I don't know what else I'd read, but
on the Kindle, of course.
Yeah, on the Kindle. I know it was analog then. It was before Kindle.
Analog paper book.
Yeah, and like I had that, and then I had music, and that was like how I hope I've got emotional intelligence, but like that's how I developed it, like how I had a vehicle to express how I felt, or like, you know, by like kind of looking into how other people have struggled with things, or like have like, you know, celebrated things, and just sort of like it helps you process everything, especially with like, I don't know, like, you know, if it's the same for you, but I feel like British culture is very reserved. And we're very much like stiff upper lip, you know, and kind of don't.
I've had a brief experience with British culture. I was over there in 2022 for a conference, but yeah, I can attest to that. It feels a little bit stuffy at times, sure.
Yeah, like for example, if someone bumps into you, be like, "Oh, sorry, it's fine," but it really isn't. Like you're harboring that all day. So it was very nice and freeing to have like all of this like literature and music to sort of like, you know, be like, oh, like other people feel this too, because like at that point, like no one talked to each other, like or anything like that. I think especially nowadays, like, you know, there's a lot more open dialogue of how people feel, like happy and sad, you know. So yeah, I think it's important. Because, like, you know, as much as I love singing about music, about being in the club,
she loves Sean Paul.
I love Sean Paul so much. Johnny Paul. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Clumsily.
It is interesting, though, isn't it? How, you know, you talk about, people who listen to this super aggro music, and, you know, sometimes music that has, like, violent themes are, for the most part, quite relaxed, chilled out people. And then you might get someone who listens to Adele and just goes on an absolute murderous rampage.
Yeah, goes on a spree.
The problem is Adele, right?
Yeah, it's definitely her. Actually, she sings about heartbreak. I think it's more the PMA people, like Pharrell Williams with his song "Happy." That's a depressing song for me, because it's just sort of like, it's almost like
it's forced, isn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like, oh, I'm really depressed. Oh, have you tried not being?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing, like, from your time working retail, Justine, like, you probably heard it over a PA like fucking 4,000 times, and you're like, I'm actually not happy. I'm about to fucking lose my mind.
I'm really sad. I want to kill.
Yeah.
Cry for now.
I wanted to talk now about some of the collaborations that you've got on this record. There's some incredible guest features, and I've seen you guys talk about those in some other places. But one of the ones that I wanted to touch on is working with your producer, Lewis Johns, who produced and mixed the record. He's a longtime collaborator, and I'm guessing a good friend, and someone who's kind of been an essential part of what ETS has been doing for years. Kind of talk to me about that relationship with Lewis, how foundational or important he is to what you guys do musically, and then kind of what you wanted to build on with that relationship with the new record.
Yeah, some of the key things for us that, you know, are so important about working with Lewis is definitely just his ability to get the best from you, but also without being an absolute tyrant. You know what I mean? He's
Yeah, it's really different. He's got a good bedside manner, yeah. Because I'm always wildly unprepared for the studio. I just
Right.
take it really long to learn songs, and also I get the least amount of time because obviously things change musically, don't they? And the lyrics is the last to go on top. And at the very beginning, I was bad at recording, like so bad. Like my timing was atrocious. So and he was very patient. So I very much like warmed up to him immediately because I was like, you don't make me feel terrible about my lack of talent.
His way of like recording now, in terms of like because we used to do it in quite like a I guess sort of like old fashioned way when we first started, where it'd be like you record all the instruments and then like you pop the vocals on last. So that would then mean like Justine has to go in and, you know, there's 2 days left and just absolutely crucify her voice for the last 2 days. Whereas now it's like, since we DI like a lot of the guitars, and, you know, there might be some of like, we've got the drums down essentially, like we get all of that done. But then, you know, we might have some unfinished songs on guitar, but we have like my demo guitar, and it's like, well, Justine, why don't you jump in and do like 2 songs today, have a break, and then, you know what I mean? Like from quite early on in the recording session, which I think has been like a massive help, hasn't it? Because like you're saying, since you're kind of like the last thing to get finished, you don't have enough time to kind of like really get to know the songs, but also work on how you want to perform the songs. And I feel like, I mean, for me, the vocals sound great on every record, but Fallen Star, I think you were even saying, is like by far your favourite vocal performance.
I had the leisurely time of just being able to record a bit.
Yeah, I think it's the most vocally dynamic record in the catalog, I would think. Like Sammy, your vocals, Justine, you know, obviously your vocals are center stage, but then with the guests and the different arrangements, like there's so much going on the record that it is quite diverse. There's lots of, you know, range vocally, which I think is definitely a plus.
Yeah, because we gave ourselves the time this time to actually, like, I think after, was it a fifth album? After 5 albums, we finally realised we need more time.
Yeah.
And I feel like our last sort of booking was just like perfect amount of time, and like, I feel like it does show.
Well, and it's Lewis's like, you know, knowledge of us as like performers now as well. He will know like it'll be beneficial to get like Justine in like as soon as possible to start doing a couple of the songs, so it's not like the last couple of days, and hopefully, you know, her voice will hold out, because the pressure's on, isn't it? You know, once you've got to go into the studio, so your voice.
Recording is so weird, like especially when like you're shouting, because you're shouting in a very sterile, like dampened room with 2 other people. There's no crowd to like get you hyped. Maybe I should get a renter crowd.
I need to be there. Just go,
woo! It's just such a weird thing, and I can't hold the microphone. It's like I don't know what to do with my hands. So there's all these like weird little kind of things I have to like contend with. So it's just nice to have, to have our sort of groove. Really, I think I just went on a rant. I didn't think I had a point to what I was saying.
No. That's all. It's all valid stuff. I guess like with the sonics on the record, one of the interesting things that I've always appreciated about Employed to Serve is like the pedant in me always struggles to kind of like figure out exactly where you fit in terms of like subgenre or sound. And I think that is a benefit. Like as much as it might frustrate that pedant quality in me, I think it's to your benefit, because like you guys do so much and you pull from so many different strands of heavy metal that it is kind of hard to categorize and define. So on this record, like what were you really trying to hone in on and refine with the sonics? What was the kind of vibe, mood, texture? What were you going for with this batch of material?
An extension of Conquering, but more light and shade. So one thing I've said quite a lot in reflection of Conquering was, as much as I love it as a record, it was kind of just like balls to the wall the whole way through, just like unrelenting. Partially because with the new members joining, that kind of opened us up to write material a bit more geared in this direction. So I think that was like green light, let's fucking go. Whereas with this album, there was a bit more reflection to be like, oh no, it'd be nice to have some more dynamics. Keep it like, as you say, as arse pounding as humanly possible.
It's a good quality. Got to get in there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we are a heavy metal band at the end of the day, but also have those kind of peaks and troughs to
bring
make
in the ballads.
Yeah, well, it's just, you know, it's more interesting, you know, and not even just the singing. It's more like in songs like, you know, obviously the Fallen Star verse, where it like really drops down to just Justine's vocals and the drums and the piano. In the verses of Brother Stand Beside Me, it's like it dropped down, and there was like, for me, a lack of that on Conquering. Not that the songs weren't, like, I still think they're great, but I would have liked, maybe in hindsight, a bit more diversity in with the like unrelenting tracks.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I feel like, and for a lot of people, heaviness is relative to what it's sounding, right? So, like, you know, say for example, someone's mum who only listens to pop music is going to think, I don't know, Queens of the Stone Age is the heaviest thing in the world. So, like, when you have an album that is like, you know, has no dynamics, is like straight like heaviness, is it arse pounding, as the phrase of the podcast?
Yeah. That's the technical term, correct?
Technical dictionary term. It loses that impact for me.
Yeah.
Whereas like if there's a nice like low, I think like Deftones does it so well. Like where there's like a real nice sort of like, you know, like kind of lull in the song, and then it kind of comes back in with an insane riff. I just think it just impacts so much more and makes the song more memorable. And I feel like, I think that's like what this album does better than Conquering.
Yeah. We just want to keep it interesting as musicians as well, you know. And I think, you know, we're more cemented in our sound now, kind of like, you know, this post-COVID ETS, I guess you could say, you know, but also with the inclusion of like more keys and pads and stuff, you know, it kind of showed our want to kind of, you know, progress and add different elements in. And
who doesn't want to be Dio?
Yeah, best singer of all time, but that requires a task for me. But Scandinavian bands and Nordic bands like, you know, Soilwork and In Flames, bands like that, and Dimmu Borgir and stuff like that have been like a huge influence on this record. So I think it's kind of like, you know, kind of showing. I think, you know, like it's hard, like you say, it's kind of hard to categorize, and I definitely wouldn't want to go as far as to say like, oh, we're just a straight up metalcore band. But I think it would be fair to say, like nowadays, ETS kind of fits kind of into the metalcore world because we are influenced by a lot of hardcore. We're obviously influenced by a lot of metal, but I feel like we always want to experiment with stuff. You know?
I feel like we're a very British band. Like, so because we're such a small, like, not just because of our accents, but we're a very small country. Like, we're like little slither on the globe. And because of that, like, our scenes are very close together and very small, and like we're on the same circuits. And I think from that we have this very weird sort of sound where like a lot of, I think, other British bands have it, like where loads of them don't sort of sit particularly anywhere. Like a good one is like I feel like Architects, While She Sleeps, Bring Me the Horizon, Bury Tomorrow, all of them have like you can't put them perfectly anywhere.
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah,
like, and I think that is a British thing, because whereas like in other countries that are much bigger, you have so many different scenes that are quite spread apart, so they almost cultivate their own sound like separate from each other, and they can have like their own thing. But yeah, I think it's a country thing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Like, a band that comes to mind is a band like Svalbard. You know, like a band that pulls from so many different influences, and, you know, like Serena, who is, you know, friend of the show, she's like a huge like power metal nerd and like a symphonic like metal nerd, but like you don't really get that with Svalbard, but there's bits of it. There's riffs in there, there's vocal dynamics in there, but like they're not a power metal band. You know what I mean? Like you can pull from these different influences and synthesize them in a way that becomes your own thing. And I think that's what you guys have been doing from record to record. But on Fallen Star, I think it is the most confident, self-assured, and dynamic record in your catalog.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I think my personal favorite is the closer, From This Day Forward. incredible. I always love like a really, really good album closer, and you guys smash it out of the park on that one. It's incredible.
That's our very metalcore track. Like
I know,
it's like
I
very
know. I'm a metalcore guy, and I was like,
Oh,
ooh,
yeah.
this is
I'm
good.
glad you-
This is good.
Yeah.
The chorus is like, super kill switch, isn't it? Now I think of it,
Mhm.
but yeah, when that one sort of came about, we were all like,
I really wanted it to be an album, a single, but like obviously it's an album close that it didn't really work out. But yeah,
it was hard picking singles, wasn't it? It was, because every song was kind of a contender, if you see what I mean. It was,
we've never had that before.
Picking singles is always such a painstaking thing.
Like all the other albums, we already knew what the singles were, but we kind of like really fought over what singles. For this one.
I'm very glad you did the title track, because like when Atonement dropped, I was like, oh, they've got the Will feature. This is fucking crazy, and it's a crazy song. And I was like, this is really showing the progression and what we're going to get on this new record. And then Fallen Star came out, and I was like, holy shit, this is like so catchy and so melodic and so just like uplifting, but still heavy. And I was like, this fucking rocks. Like, it got me so excited to listen to the record.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was one of the sort of earlier songs that came together.
Yeah, I think because we tried to make it all the songs a bit more dynamic and not just straight up. As much as I love breakdowns, musical breakdowns, not mental breakdowns.
That's right. Very important.
It was I think that actually made it harder for us to pick singles. But yeah.
I want to know. It's always so tricky. It's like, and then when you've picked them, you're like, oh, have I made the right song?
Campaign.
Like, oh, damn. We fucked it.
I wanted to kind of wrap things up for the main show here, and then we'll chop it up and do some quick stuff for the Patreon. But the final kind of question, it kind of links back into the album closer. So there's like a lyric on From This Day Forward where you talk about it's the mistakes that make us change. So I wanted to kind of end on that note and ask you both, like, what's a mistake or perhaps like something that happened in your career that has become a valued lesson, like something that made you change a way of doing things or yourself, or just a lesson learned, I guess?
Oh, that's a good question.
For me, it is, and I don't necessarily know if I've always been like terrible in this regard, but once again, going back to the whole pandemic and having time to reflect, it is definitely being like extremely grateful for what you have in the present. I know it's quite a generic thing to say, but I think it's something particularly for people in bands or anyone making any kind of like creative outlet or whatever it may be, is you've really got to enjoy like every aspect of it, and you want to remain driven so that you still you go forwards and you do new things. But like for me, it's like doing the interviews for Fallen Star and stuff like that. This is also the reward from doing the record. Shooting the music videos for the new album, that was also the reward for the new record. So before we've even got to like the release of the album and it being, whether it's whatever successful may be to whoever, whether it's successful or whatever, it kind of doesn't matter. It's because we've had all these like awesome experiences.
It's the journey, not the destination.
It is, and I know it's it gets said a lot, but I feel it's very easy to lose yourself when you're doing stuff like this, and to become quite jaded.
Oh yeah, you become like a dopamine junkie. You're like, give me validation like now. And then like, because you're so used to sort of like the highs and everything of like, seeing the little streaming numbers go up, someone at a show telling you how great you are. And then all the normal stuff, like, I don't know, the sort of admin of the band or like just the traveling to and from a show is like a distinct dip in like sort of, graph. You have to just sort of like sort your life out a little bit and be like, okay, Like let's not go manic here.
Yeah, and it's about maintaining. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I mean, I don't know. Everyone's different. I can't get inside over everyone else's head and how they want to feel about stuff. But for me, I think staying a fan of what you do outside of just be a fan of other people, boost up other people, just enjoy being a part of the greater scene or whatever you're involved in. And I'm not saying there was a point in time where I was completely the opposite of that, but I think for me the emphasis on continued happiness is kind of making sure that you feed into all of the good stuff going in the present day and just enjoying it for what it is, because it's very easy to take stuff for granted. I think that's been very apparent over the last couple of years for a lot of people, so I think it's good to
so easy to get greedy.
Yeah, no, that's very well said. Justine, do you have any other kind of experience that's been a learning lesson for you?
Oh, I've learnt nothing. No, I have learnt something. What have I learnt? I have learnt to not force things, I think. I have a really one of my favourite songs ever is Undo by Bjork, and the lyrics are it's not meant to be a struggle uphill. And I'm like, it's such a good lyric because it's so true. Because sometimes when something's not quite working, instead of forcing a situation or panicking and like making snap decisions, just sort of like stepping back and like getting a bit of perspective. Because I'm very much like, if there's a problem, I try and fix it. Like it annoys me. Whereas sometimes things can't be fixed and you just have to let it be.
Like Justine's squeaky chair. You just having to step back.
Can't be fixed.
It's exposure therapy for not fixing things. So.
Yes. No, I completely agree with you. And I think like one of the lessons I learned getting into my 30s was like, just like almost any problem can be solved by like putting it down, walking away for like an hour, and then coming back to it with like a fresh perspective, and like you'll obviously see what the solution is, or you'll have a better way of like approaching it. Whereas if you're just like bashing away in the moment, like you're going to get frustrated, you're probably going to fuck the thing up. Like there's nothing to be gained from just like banging your head against a wall repeatedly. It's that masochism that we fall prey to. So
love.
And totally on the same sort of note, I think it's fine sometimes to realise that I think we put too much pressure on ourselves to not feel. Oh, I've done the thumbs up thing. It's all right.
Love it.
Not feel certain emotions that are totally, at the end of the day.
Wave.
Because sometimes you are going to feel sad, angry, or you might feel like jealous or whatever and stuff like that. I think it's totally fine to be like, those are totally human experiences to feel, but like you say, just remove yourself from the situation and come back, with a.
And my hand's not big enough. I hope it's video as well, because this makes no sense audibly.
This will be video for sure.
Wait, why did you hang on? Where is the sensor?
It never makes sense.
There you go.
There you go.
That's incredible.
On what you were saying about removing yourself from a situation, but realizing it's okay to feel how you feel, but you're probably better off, like you say, putting it down and coming back to a clear mind rather than throwing all your toys out the pram and making things worse.
Throw a tantrum, destroy everything.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I was. That's right. Destroy everything. No, I was guilty of that in my 20s for sure, and just like thinking that I was like entitled to things or that I deserved things, and not really like working at it, and then realizing that what I was calling work was just like endlessly frustrating myself for no real gain, like to just like wallow in that kind of struggle a little bit and feel like that was entitlement, which is stupid. Like
with this type of music though, it's exactly that. It can, if you're not careful, become a feedback loop. I do find if you're making super negative music all the time without there being sort of like you're kind of finding the inspiration and feeling like shit, so you kind of want to have that mentality to then write the really negative music, and it just all starts to become.
And then you have a good day and you feel good, but then you feel guilty for having the good day and for feeling good, so then you get misanthropic, and it's all just like this Ouroboros of shit and bad time. Ouroboros
of shit. That's good. That's the next album.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. You get your check.
Sammy, Justine, we might wrap up the main show here. I will have links in the description for people to pre-order the album, to check out the singles. I know you have a headline run in the UK with Celestial Sanctuary and Burner. That's fucking dope. I will have a link in there for people to get tickets and check you out for our small but devoted UK listener base. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This was sick.
Thank you for having us.
It's absolute ours. Yeah, it's been amazing.
Subscribe now to the Pitch of Discontent Patreon to receive access to extended cuts of our bonus episodes, as well as exclusive behind-the-scenes content, monthly Patreon-only episodes, member-only votes, the TPD community chat, and much more. Go now to patreon.com/tpdpod and join for as little as $5 a month. That link again is patreon.com/tpdpod. Thanks for watching the show.